Welcome to Blue is the New White, the #1 podcast for building blue-collar business.
You know that for our industry to grow, our businesses have to grow. In order for our businesses to grow, our people have to.
Here, we talk to experts in any field with actionable insight that you can use to develop yourself, your team, or your blue-collar company right now.
Fortune favors action. It's just as simple as actually taking that step forward.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, join us to discover the blueprint for what it takes to stand out in the world of business. Now, blue-collar CEO and business coach, author, speaker, and your host, Josh Zolin.
And you guys know how I'm going to end it, right? Say it with me. Let's go to work on 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go to work!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Blue is the New White podcast. So have you ever asked yourself, what's the difference between PR and marketing? Why is it even important? And how can I use PR to help grow my business? Listen, these are some of the questions I've asked myself over the years, and now I get answers for me and for you. Today we speak with Heather Ripley of Ripley PR, a PR firm focused specifically on the blue-collar skilled trade industries. Heather founded the company in 2013 and comes from the blue-collar world herself. In this episode, we dive deep into the world of public relations and talk about things like, what does PR look like in the blue-collar world? Where is the biggest impact on my business? How to reach out to local media for instant exposure? And what's the actual ROI on this stuff? Tune in to hear this and more. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and on our website at blueisthenewwhite.com to receive all the latest updates. And you can now find this podcast on iHeartRadio, SiriusXM, and Pandora. As always, we rely on the word of mouth from our listeners to further the mission. So if you enjoyed this episode, please hit that follow button. It ensures that we can continue producing this content, and the future generations of blue-collar business owners depend on it. They depend on you. Also, if you're looking to advance your blue-collar career or propel your business, be sure to check out the brand new Blue is the New White Academy at bitnew.academy. That's bitnw.academy. Thank you again and enjoy this episode of Blue is the New White with Heather Ripley. Heather Ripley of Ripley's PR, welcome to the Blue is the New White podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here, and I'm really excited about this conversation as well. So, before we actually jump into the nitty-gritty of everything we're going to be talking about, would you mind just kind of giving us an idea of who you are and how you got to where you are today? Who is Heather Ripley?
Yeah, thank you. I've been in the skilled trades industry in some form or fashion for about 16 years. Prior to that, I was doing just marketing and PR for manufacturing companies and professional service companies, stuff like that. But in 2008, ended up getting a really cool dream job at Clockwork Home Services. And if you don't know, back in 2008 and 9, they were the parent franchise of 1 Hour Heating and Air, Benjamin Franklin Plumbing, and Mr. Sparky. Oh. And started working there. I knew nothing about those 3 trades, although I grew up in skilled trades. My dad's an automotive guy. And fell in love with working with the contractors and helping them use PR or earned media, which I'm sure we'll talk more about today. But they understood marketing, but not how PR could help them. So I'm so excited to be able to help more contractors. And over the years, done a lot of different things. I worked for 2 other agencies prior to starting Ripley PR in 2013. But I knew I wanted to focus on helping skilled trades. So today we work with contractors, we work with tech companies, manufacturers, really anybody servicing any skilled trade, we help. So I'm happy to be here and happy to answer any questions.
No, and I've got some. So, which is the point of this show, right? If I didn't, you probably wouldn't be here. But no, that's fantastic. And you know, as my listeners know, this is a very conversational show. So I've got a framework of, what I work around, but largely this is just going to be a conversation where I'm going to pick your brain to the best of my ability. So 2013, so last year you celebrated 10 years in business.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yep. Thank you.
That's a hell of a milestone.
It is. Still feels like we're a startup in a lot of ways, but it's exciting, and we're growing, but it's painful, as all of the business owners know. It's a challenge every day.
Well, I'm convinced that's why we do it. We celebrated last year. We celebrated 20 years in business, and I still feel the same way. It still feels like we haven't even scraped the surface, right? But as a business owner, when you're so focused on growth, right, and I think it's in our nature as entrepreneurs to be hard on ourselves in that aspect. Like, we need this X, Y, and Z, and we need to see growth in order to feel fulfilled. I'm not trying to speak for you, but that's certainly how I feel sometimes. And, so year over year, man, I don't care if the company's 50 years old. I feel like, there's probably a part of us that would still want to view it as a day one company.
Yeah, that's true. Got to stop and celebrate the wins. I tell myself that probably weekly.
Yeah. No, you know what? Stopping and celebrating the wins. Let's talk about that for a second, right? Because there's I've seen a back and forth of this particular statement in the skilled trades in particular, because there's something behind, learning from your mistakes, right? And not getting too comfortable, right? And I think that without context behind it, it can be taken different ways. Like, I love the idea of stopping and celebrating the wins, but without proper context behind it, some people could see that as starting to be a little bit complacent. You know what I mean? What are your thoughts around that? How do you keep it from feeling that way?
Yeah, it's fun to look forward, and I'm a visionary, so I'm always thinking 2-3 steps ahead, or I'm trying to, but then I forget like how far we've come, how hired better people, or we've moved and paid off an office, or those big wins.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just get too caught up in looking ahead that you're not slowing down when it's appropriate and celebrating. And I think for our clients in PR, that phrase is forgotten, and that PR can be anything. It can be celebrating why your employees like to work for your company. It can be the charitable giving that you're able to do now that you're growing, sharing some of that thing, some of those great things with the community that you serve. There's things every company can celebrate, and maybe they're too focused on moving forward that they're not pausing and thinking through the strategy of some of that stuff.
Yeah, I've definitely fallen into that trap myself, if I'm being honest. For a good 10 years or so, I just had my foot on the gas, and kind of like you, right? I'm a visionary. I look often live 10 years in the future. And that creates quite a barrier, for anything that falls behind me. It's like, it's done, it's over, or, we're looking here. So definitely a learned behavior. And I like to bring that up because I think that the balance there is important. So I know it's not completely on with what we're talking about, but important nonetheless. And, to your point about not celebrating the wins, and it's easy as business owners, especially in this field, to get overwhelmed. And so one of the things I like to tell my team is that we need to celebrate or we need to measure our success not by the day, but by the quarter, by the year. Because if you try to measure your success by the day, it's just going to feel like you're spinning your wheels. Day in, day out with what we do. So, all right, high level question for you. You're going to love this one. Super simple, but why is PR important?
PR can impact the reputation that you have out there. So we talk to contractors who are 20, 30 years into the business, and they're wanting to hand down the business to a son, or they're, a lot of companies are positioning their company for acquisition down the road, or they're looking at retirement. Marketing it works. we know marketing works, but everybody's doing the same things. They're wrapping their trucks with cool wraps. They've got a cool brand. They're using door hangers. They're using yard signs and billboards and radio spots. But PR is one thing that your competitors are probably not doing. So it's still kind of the Wild West. Contractors don't understand it, so they think that it's just crisis cleanup, but they're not thinking about the positive, proactive ways you can get the media to talk about you. And so that's the biggest thing right there, is it's a way to stand out, truly dominate in your market, and do something that nobody else is doing simply because they don't understand it.
That's super interesting. So because it's new, kind of like a new thought process, in this industry, are you finding that there's a lot of education behind it, that you're having to teach people about it before they're actually able to pull the trigger on it? Is that?
Yes. And even the most savvy of home service guys, they understand marketing. They get it. They're thinking awesome marketing tactics, and they're thinking these great campaigns, but they don't understand that PR can be, PR can be so much more than just like, I had something bad happen and I need to clean it up. Mm-hmm. It can be creating a charitable partnership with a humane society in your neighborhood. It can be giving back to veterans. It can be some kind of nonprofit partnership. So many of our clients are doing so many good things, but they're scared to tell anybody because they feel it's too self-serving. But I tell them all the same thing. When you do PR about the charitable giving that you're doing, you're helping that nonprofit because they probably can't afford PR. So that dollar that you're giving them is going so much further. You're increasing their awareness. You're telling people that they exist and all the good things that this organization does. And so your dollar, your good, is able to go a lot further. And now with the young generation entering the workforce, they want to work for companies who give back. So that helps with recruiting. It helps your technicians feel good about the place they work. It's layered. It's more than people think of when they think of PR. They're just thinking, well, I had a water heater blow up and now I've got to clean this mess up in the news. It hit the media, which we do. We do that kind of stuff too, but it's so much more than that.
Wow, that's really interesting. So and maybe this is a question you get often, but can you kind of highlight the differences for us between marketing and PR?
Yeah, marketing is anything you're paying for. So it could be everything, really. It could be your uniforms with the branded logo on them. It could be your truck wraps. It could be your paid advertising. PR kind of falls in a marketing budget as a line item. It should. But it's earned media. So you're getting someone else to talk positively about you. You're getting someone else to say great things about you. And in this case, we're getting the media to interview you, to position you as the expert, to walk through a home and teach somebody how to prepare their home for vacation, or teach them how often should you actually change your air filter in your home. Is a electrical panel a fire hazard? What do you look for in your home? When do you need a new HVAC unit? All that stuff. Anything your customers ask you every day can be a story.
Wow, that's interesting. So then what makes PR, I'm gonna say more important of a piece than marketing? I'm gonna position it that way.
Earned media is credible. People know they're being sold to with advertising. Not saying it doesn't work. Advertising works. Mm-hmm. It does serve a purpose. And with advertising, I joke, you're saying the same thing over and over and over. But with earned media, you really only need one other person to say it and then multiple people to hear it. And it just changes the perception out there of your brand. And people may not remember that they saw you interviewed on the TV news, but you can help push that out there and say, hey, our owner was just interviewed on CBS last night. I don't know if you caught it. You know, we teach our clients all those tricks about how to bring it up, how to share it on your social media, all that stuff.
Yeah, to where and position it to where it doesn't seem self-serving.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the first time I've ever heard, and it makes a lot of sense positioning it, the way that you had mentioned before about how, those who think that it's self-serving need to also think about what it does for, the charitable organization in your example, that may not otherwise get that exposure. So it's kind of like, put your own oxygen mask on first type of situation where, you can do this and then that enables you to lift somebody else up.
Right. And there's ways that we do it. So if we do a press release for Broward HVAC, I don't know if that company exists. I just made it up. But they donated a $10,000 check to Broward County Humane Society, for instance. We would write the press release for Broward County Humane Society receives $10,000 from Broward HVAC and position it from the recipient. So we're getting the recipient to tell the story of what they're going to do with the money and how much they appreciate it. And we do what we call a joint press release. So we're doing PR for the recipient organization and the giver, our client. So it seems like it's a story about the organization is so thankful that they got this check, rather than, hey, look what we did. We gave a check to this organization.
So the impact. Okay. All right. Wow. That's interesting. So you're kind of positioning the impact in a different way. It's not the company that did it that's making the impact. It's the impact as told from the company that got it. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
And usually what happens when we do that is a TV station is like, this is exciting. What are they going to do with the money? How many animals do they help every year? This is interesting. I'm going to talk to both. Why did this company give that much money to them? Then you get to tell those feel good stories and get your name out there. And usually the recipient organization is also going to e-blast their entire donor list, and all of that gets your name out there in a really good way. So that good, again, goes a lot further when you're open to doing those kinds of announcements.
That's amazing. That's cool. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy there. So then let's position. You started to talk a little bit about it, when you mentioned recruiting and, all the different benefits that come along with this, but, let's talk tangible ROI, in utilizing a PR firm or doing PR. I mean, what are all the benefits that come along with it, maybe both non-monetary and monetary?
It's the magic bullet question that everybody wants to know is, what is the ROI for PR? It is a little bit harder to measure because you're talking about changing perception. It's more branding. If we're being honest, it's putting the brand out there more. One of my first clients when I launched Ripley PR in 2013 was Mike Agliaro of Gold Medal Service. And he told me, I want PR in the entire state of New Jersey. I want to eventually sell the company. So anything you can get me in the state of New Jersey is great. I also want some national PR because I want to sell the company. And the buyer may not be in New Jersey. So that's what we did. We got him in Contractor Magazine, Contractor of the Year, Best Places to Work. We did all of these things to get his goal of selling the company. So for that particular instance, yes, PR made the phone ring. We were getting him in newspaper articles. We were getting him on TV. But also his end game was to make the company more valuable. And I can't remember the year, but a few years later, he did sell to Horizon Services, and they saw all the PR he was doing, and it raised the value of the company in their eyes because people knew who the company was. So as far as the dollar return, I don't know that information. I do know he got calls from the PR, but also he was able to sell the company. So we do a lot of PR work for companies like that want to sell. We do PR work for companies who purchased another person's company and maybe they had kind of a shady reputation. They're trying to clean it up, give a new perception. That kind of thing takes a little bit more time. But you can interview the new owner. You can talk about the great things about their staff and how much they care. So every situation's a little bit different. It depends on the client's goals, whether they just want to grow or whether they want to sell, hand the business down, create an exit strategy so that they can retire and actually have a business worth something.
Sure.
All of that goes into play with the strategy that we create.
So PR kind of the return is flexible is kind of what I'm hearing. You know, some of the things I've heard is, you know, the value of your company increases as the reputation of your company increases. Hopefully, good reputation. You know, it really depends on the goals that you set, and then you can kind of tailor what style of PR fits best into those goals. Is that a fair assessment of what I heard? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it does make your phone ring. It's a shorter period of time because if you're interviewed on your local news, that news story is it has a short lifespan, even if it's still on the website, you know, for months after. Once that airs, you might get calls the next day. But then that's a longer, lots of eyeballs were on it. It's branding. They may not call you right away, but they may remember that later on. So there is a lot of value in it. And then using it on your social media, using it for your credibility, all of it helps.
That makes a lot of sense. So then let me ask you, how important is it for a company to have those goals worked out and figured out before they approach somebody like you? Is that something you kind of, for lack of a better term, is that a prerequisite, you know, that you have, like, hey, you've got to come to me with goals, or are you the type to help them determine those goals?
The second. Most don't know their goals.
Oh.
Most kind of say, well, I haven't really thought about it. I know that I don't want to do this forever. I'm getting older, as we all are. But a lot of our clients are simply, we need to do something different. We've got competitors like that pop up out of nowhere and they're growing faster than we are. And we know there's business out there. We don't know how to get it. But we want to grow, and that's why they hire us, to try it. So a lot of our clients come on and they're like, I've heard about PR. What can we do?
Wow. Okay. So then what about in a situation, and I imagine this has come up before. I know a lot of people that are like this, right? But people that aren't comfortable in an interview setting, or they're not comfortable on camera asking or answering questions, right? Maybe it's a self-serving thing they're not comfortable with, or maybe they just, you know, they're shy, or, you know, in front of the camera. How do you navigate those situations to make sure that, you know, what's being presented is what's going to increase, you know, reputation?
Yes, I can tell them, I can relate to you. I'm an introvert. I have a team of media relations specialists. A lot of them are former broadcast media. So they are very used to coaching for TV interviews. For newspaper interviews, it's no problem. That's kind of easy. Anybody could do that. But for a TV interview, we prep our clients. We tell them what to wear, how to sit, if it's an in-studio media interview, if it's a walk and talk, as we call it. If they're walking through a house, we tell them how to stand. And then we coach them after, because believe it or not everybody nails it the first time. So we'll coach them. We'll tell them what they did well. We'll tell them what they could do better or differently next time. But we do have a media relations team who does coaching with our clients. Okay.
Well, that's good to know, I'm sure, for a lot of people out there listening. That's great. Okay. So why is this something that people can't do themselves? right? I mean, I can kind of deduce hearing you. I mean, much of it is foreign to me, and that's probably a good reason to hire somebody to do it. But like, at the heart of it, what if somebody were to say, man, PR, that can't be so hard. I reach out to a couple of newspapers, and I do some good things, and I post it, and so what's the advantage, or is there a reason why somebody would do this on their own?
So the short answer and the easiest answer is you can do some of this on your own. You absolutely can. I tell companies the day you open your doors for business is the day you should start PR. So even if it's just you, it's one guy in a truck, tell the newspaper, tell your local media that you're open, tell them why you started a new business, tell them what your background is. Just share it and say, if you ever need an expert, I'm here. You can get stuff like that, but introduce yourself to your media. Where a PR agency or a professional can help is if you have a marketing person, like most companies do, a lot of times they've got their marketing hat on and not a journalistic hat on. So they're thinking marketing messages. If your marketing person writes a press release and distributes it to the media, it's probably going to end up in the trash can, or it's going to be forwarded to the ad team. So you can test this and have them write a press. If it calls from the advertising department wanting you to buy an ad, you're not delivering a journalistic style piece. You're delivering an ad to a journalist, and they're just going to forward it to the ad department. So that's what we see most of the time. There is an art to creating news. That sounds bad. We're not like doing some crazy publicity stunt, but we are taking what you do. We know the industry very well. So we're taking what you do and we're creating an interesting, newsworthy story that newspapers can sell papers, or TV can sell ads because eyeballs are watching that story. And ultimately, they want something that's helpful to their viewers or readers.
So let's talk about that for a second. I like that, being able to tell a story in an appropriate way, on a way that will resonate. And this has been a big conversation topic for me. In the blue collar skilled trades, I've given entire talks, to rooms full of people about, how we need to do a better job of telling our stories, right? Because it's my belief that everybody's got a story to tell, right? And it's just about, how it's done. And listen, at the end of the day, I'm just going to call it what it is. Some people are bad at telling stories. So what are some of the ways that we in the blue collar space, what are some of the ways that we can think about how to tell our story? I don't know if this is a good question. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I'm trying to say, but like, what are some tactics to help us tell a better story? How's that?
Mm-hmm. So one of the exercises we do with a new client, they'll come on and we call it a discovery and a kickoff call. We discover what we can about the company. And that's where we find something amazing that they don't think is a story, but is a great story. Maybe something about their history. Maybe their grandfather started the business and they started plumbing when they were 6 years old. Something like that they think is nothing could be really interesting to a journalist. So think about your beginnings. Think about your goals. Is it a husband and wife running the business together? Why is the wife there? Is she better at certain things than a man? Those are stories that you may not think about, and you may need help getting there. But the most common stories we get are the things that home service companies don't think about, or don't think are newsworthy, like how old's too old for a water heater? What's the difference between a tankless and regular water here. Think about the questions that homeowners don't know and they ask, that you get asked every day and you're probably sick of talking about. Those are the things that the media probably wants to interview you about.
Man, that is such a simple way to think about it, but I can see why nobody would, right? This is the language that we all speak every single day.
Every day.
It's amazing. I relate it to, I've got a YouTube channel, right, with a lot of tips and tricks and maintenance and stuff like that. And the hardest part about it was, excuse me, thinking about the basic things, the most basic things that people wouldn't know how to do. Because, in these industries, we don't often interact with people outside of our customers that don't know how to do these things. So, like how to reset a GFI, how to flip a breaker, how to change an air filter, right? And an AC filter, like the most basic things we just don't think about. So that's probably something that you can open eyes to, right? And say, hey, actually, this is story worthy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Water
amazing.
pressure. Anything where you can teach a homeowner something. The journalist or the reporter on TV is going to say, that's interesting. Do you have any visuals for us? What could we talk in a bathroom setting somewhere? Can you show us some interesting things? We have a client in Seattle that we regularly get on TV, and it's stories like, what do you not flush? What about this label that says this can be flushed? No, don't flush it. Here's a story. It's the everyday things make them interesting. Yeah,
no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that's reason in itself for somebody to hire a PR firm. So I'm going to ask the question that everybody out there is probably wondering at this point. And I don't know if there's an easy answer to this, but I'm guessing most people don't even know what to consider when budgeting for something like this. So, how much can somebody, I'm sure it depends on different factors and size of business and all of these different things, but is there a way that somebody can kind of predict what they could expect to spend on something, PR related?
Yeah. There is no easy way to answer that because, of course, we do create custom packages for our clients. And I pride myself on that because I came from other PR agencies where they're like, this is our minimum. We don't want you if you don't hit it. Mm-hmm. And I want to help more contractors. So I work with all kinds of budgets, from your $500,000 company to your $30 million company. Everybody can afford some PR. And at the end of the day, if they call me and they're not ready for PR or they're going to be a terrible interview on TV, I'll tell them, like, work on this and then let's talk in a few months. I'm pretty honest with people in that regard. But if you're going through a rebranding, for instance, you're budgeting for new truck wraps. You're budgeting for new business cards, new logos, new shirts, uniforms, everything. So budget an extra $3,000 or $4,000 to put into a PR campaign to tell that story to your local media. Just add it as a line item. Talk to us. It may cost less. It may cost a little more depending on how many markets you serve and all of that. But that's a good number to throw in there for a one-time cost. And it's going to pay off because if you don't communicate your rebrand, your competitors are going to make up stories about, no, they were bought out or they went out of business, they went bankrupt. I've seen so many times that happens where they didn't budget it and then they try to do something 6 months, 8 months, 9 months later, and it's not newsworthy anymore because it happened so long ago.
That's interesting. So my next question then is for those listening who are thinking about starting their own business or who have recently started their own business. We've got a lot of those listeners as well. And, a comment that you made earlier was you tell people, the day that you open your doors is the day that you should start PR, and I look back to when we started, Windy City Equipment and, kind of what that looked like. And And, you know, we were living off credit cards. We had no money. We had literally nothing, just, you know, knocking doors, hoping somebody would give us work and, you know, got ourselves into as much debt as we possibly could in order to make it all back. So what's your advice to new business owners as to when they should realistically start pursuing something in PR? Is this like hey, it's just as important as getting customers, you know, when you first start out? Or is this, hey, here's some tactics for your first couple of years, and then, you know, when you hit X revenue or X number of employees, start looking at PR?
Awesome question. I'll tell you what I did.
Sure.
When I started Ripley PR, it was May 2013. I had the website ready. I had my logo ready. I was ready to sell. I was ready. That's when I reached out. I pitched the local newspaper here in my hometown. I got a full page front page story, and I ended up getting 3 clients off of that within 45 days. And then when I had my 5-year anniversary, I reached back out to them, got another story, 10 years, did it again. I did it as soon as I was ready to take on new business. And so that's what I would tell businesses. If you're ready, if you've got your truck, if you've got your tools, tell the newspaper that you opened. What's it going to hurt? If they don't cover you, they at least know you exist. You can reach back out later. You can take them to a coffee, get to know them, be of help to them, be a partner to them. And you just never know. It could get you a bunch of business. As far as ongoing PR, you probably don't need ongoing every month, month in, month out PR until you're about 2 million, 2.5 million. I have seen smaller companies start PR earlier than that and grow a lot faster. They're willing to put that into their budget to do that. So it does work. Depends on your media market and a lot of different things. If you're in a kind of a mid-sized media market, you're going to probably have better success than if you're in a Chicago or Indianapolis where you've got a big media market.
Makes sense. So
there's some different factors, but I'm happy to talk through all of that with anybody who calls me.
No, that's great. I appreciate that. So just a couple more questions here before we wrap it up. So you've said a couple of times, you know, reach out to local media, reach out to newspapers. You know, I'm willing to bet that people are asking themselves what that means, right?
Okay.
You know, who is it that you reach out to? How do you reach out? Is there a department or a person that you go after or you target, you know, when you're first starting out? Or do you like, you know, Dear Fox News? You know, how do you do it?
You probably don't want to reach out to national media unless you have a major story. But we're talking about your local media. If you're a local company, you want to reach out to your newspaper. And if you go to their website, you'll see a page on who to send news to. You're talking business news, so you don't want to send your news announcement to a book reviewer, for instance, or sports editor. You want to send it to the business news reporter or features writer. Sometimes will also cover some business news. You probably don't want to reach out to your TV media unless you have a visual story. A visual story would be things like what not to flush. How do you look at your electrical panel and, you know, decide if you need a new one? Is it a fire hazard? Things like that would be a good visual story. So those you would pitch the local TV. And again, they have a page on there. You can see the journalists, you can see the reporters, assignment editors, and all of that stuff. If you have something that you think is a TV story, you might want to consult a PR firm first, because that's where you're going to be live. You need to be on. This is your one moment for really impressing them. So if you have something like that, you probably want to consult a professional before you reach out to them. But if you're brand new, go ahead and reach out to your newspaper. That's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah.
Just don't spam them to death.
No, that's really helpful. I appreciate the clarification there, and I'm sure my listeners do as well. So then let me ask you this. It's a hard one, but what am I not asking?
We talked about a lot of good things. I guess the only thing we haven't talked about is a crisis.
Yeah.
If you do have something bad happen, and I have witnessed this from the best of the best companies. It's not a matter of if it happens, it's usually when it happens. When you hire people, people make mistakes. Mm-hmm. So you can't always be prepared for one of your technicians to be pulled over for a DUI in a truck. We see that all the time. So have a plan in place for if the media calls you about something that you had no idea about, whether it's a gas explosion, an accident, a home burns down and you guys were just in there the previous day, something like that. You want to have a plan in place because whatever you say to the media could appear on the front page. It could be your quote. Nothing is ever off the record if you say something. If you have something bad happen, it's better to have been doing positive PR along the way because those media outlets know you. They're not as likely to jump on a negative story as quickly as if you have a bad reputation. They look online, see terrible things about your company, bad reviews. They're more likely to jump on a negative story like that. So that's really the only thing we didn't talk about. And we do a lot of coaching with clients on creating a crisis plan, making sure you're ready, having an expert help you comment when you're asked for comment, all of that, because it does happen to the very best of companies.
No, that's really, really good advice. That's why I love to ask that question because there's always something that I didn't ask, and so I appreciate you bringing that up. So last question for you, and then I'll let you go and we can wrap this up. But it's something I like to ask everyone now that we've kind of realigned the show. But from your perspective, Heather Ripley and Ripley's PR, what's the one thing that somebody could implement in their business today that would have the biggest impact?
Oh gosh, good question. Communicating well who you are and what you stand for across all channels, your social media, your website, PR, having some sort of consistent message about, what makes you different. Everybody's selling the same thing, so how are you different?
I like that a lot. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Heather, how can people find you? How can people find Ripley's? How can they get a hold of you?
Best way is our website, ripleypr.com. There's a contact us button that goes straight to me. If you fill that out, I'm happy to jump on a call with someone or email them, tell them what a PR campaign for their business might look like. And also, I didn't get a chance to plug my book, Next Level Now. That's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes and Audible. It's everywhere. So check that out. This is a how to use PR in your own business book, and everything we talked about is also in the book.
That's fantastic. I'll make sure to provide a link to the website and also to the book as well, so people
Awesome.
can easily access that. Great. Well, Heather, thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us today. I know how busy you are, and I just appreciate you being able to share a lot of these insights with our audience. I know it's going to be impactful and very helpful for all those business owners out there.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks for listening to the Blue is the New White podcast. Be sure to subscribe to get the latest episodes. For more, please follow at Josh Zolan on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, or visit us at blueisthenewwhite.com, where we create success, not debt, and build blue-collar heroes.